Buddhirgyanam asammohaha, Shama satyam dhamma shamam, Sukham dukham bhavavaho, Vayam chavyam chavaham, sorry, Vayam chavayam evacha, Ahimsa satamantushtis, Tapodanam yasho yashaha, Bhavanti bhava bhutanam, Manta eva kritavidah. Intelligence, knowledge, freedom from doubt and delusion, forgiveness, truthfulness, self-control and calmness, pleasure and pain, birth, death, fear, fearlessness, non-violence, equanimity, satisfaction, austerity, charity, fame, and infamy are created by me alone. Maharashaya Sapta Purve Shatvaro Manavastata Vadbhava Sarjata Yesham Bhagavima Praja. The seven great sages and before them, the four other great sages and the Manus, progenitors of mankind, are born out of my mind, and all creatures in these planets descend from them. Itan vibhutim yogam cha mama yogati tattvatah sovikalpena yogena yujate natra samshayana. Even those, in truth, this glory and power of mind engages in unalloyed devotional service, of this there is no doubt. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarva pravartate iti madhava jante mam buddha bhava samanditaha. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who know this perfectly engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Vachita madhyata prana udayanta parasparam atayantashamam nityam tushanti cha pramanti cha. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me, their lives are surrendered to me, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss, enlightening one another and conversing about me. Tesham sukata yuttanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam enamam upayanti te. To those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. Tesham avadukam partam aham ajnanajam tamam nashayam Dakshayam yatma bhavastu yana deeping bhavasvata. Out of compassion for them, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the with the shining lamp of knowledge, the darkness born of ignorance. Last one. Arjuna Uvacha Param Brahma Param Dhamam Pavitram Paramam Bhavan Purusham Rajam Divyam Adi Devam Vajantivam Ahustam Rishaya Sarve Devarshir Naradastada Sita Devalo Vyasa Swayam Shaiva Pravishime. Arjuna said, "You are the supreme Brahman, the ultimate, the supreme abode and purifier, the absolute truth, the eternal divine person. You are the primal God, transcendental and original, and you are the unborn and all-pervading beauty. All the great sages, such as Narada, Sita, Devala, and Vyasa, proclaim this of you, and now you yourself are declaring it to me." Chapter 10, verse 3. He who knows me as the unborn, as the beginningless, as the supreme Lord of all the worlds, he undiluted among men is freed from all sins. As stated in the 7th chapter, those who are trying to elevate themselves to the platform of spiritual realization are not ordinary men. They are superior to millions and millions of ordinary men who have no knowledge of spiritual realization. But out of those actually trying to understand their spiritual situation, one who can come to the understanding that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the proprietor of everything, the unborn, is the most successful spiritually realized person. In that stage only, When one has fully understood Krishna's supreme position, can one be free completely from all sinful reactions? Here the word ajam, meaning unborn, should not be confused with the living entities, who are described in the second chapter as ajam. The Lord is different from the living entities who are taking birth and dying due to material attachment. The condition, like many people say, I've seen God, or I know Krishna, I know Bhagavad Gita, or Jesus came to me, or Krishna came to me, or all these things, but then we see, what are they doing? Someone says, yes, I've seen Krishna, but he still eats meat. Someone says, yes, I know God, he came to me and did this and that, but they're still going on with sinful activities. So we see that there wasn't actually... Well, so you can judge something, this is the Vedic aphorism, you can judge something by the result. So, what's the result of their so-called seeing God if they're still engaging in all these sinful activities? Then we know they didn't see them, there's nothing substantial there. Because we're hearing that one who actually understands Krishna, one who knows him as he is, that person's free from all sins. So how is someone going to say, oh yes, Krishna came to me in my dream, or Krishna came to me yesterday, or I saw God, or this or that, and now I'm still, eating meat, smoking, addicted to illicit sex, all these things. Here's an easy test. Continuing the purport, the conditioned souls are changing their bodies. What's going on? The conditioned souls are changing their bodies, but his body is not changeable. Even when he comes to this material world, he comes as the same unborn. Therefore, in the fourth chapter, it is said that the Lord, by his internal potency, is not under the inferior material energy, but is always in the superior energy. So this means to understand Krishna as he is, but a very low class of, you could say, human beings. Krishna calls them Maya Apakrita Jnana. Their knowledge is stolen away by illusion. Very low class of people say that Krishna, when he comes to this material world, he accepts the form of Maya. The Supreme Being comes and he becomes conditioned by the material energy. He has to be subjected to a material body, take birth just like a human being, and suffer in this material world, get old, get disease, get a toothache, all these things. But we know God doesn't actually have to go through these things. If we understand Krishna as he is, we understand his form is unchangeable. That's the nature of spirit. Just like the Jiva soul is also unchangeable, eternal, everlasting, primeval. He's not slain when the body is slain. In the same way, the Supreme Soul, or Krishna, he's just like that, but unlimited. The living entities and the Supreme, we understand that it's the philosophy of Achintya Veda Veda Tattva, as taught by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They're simultaneously one and different. So they're one with Krishna in quality, but different in quantity. So they have the same quality, eternality, knowledge, bliss. That's what a spiritual living entity is made out of. And the supreme spiritual living entity is all of that in full. So when he comes in his original, spiritual, blissful, eternal form. He doesn't accept a body made of matter. But people who have their knowledge stolen away by illusion and who engage in all sorts of stupid activities, they say that Krishna comes and accepts a body made of matter. So he's just like you and me. Sure, maybe he did some nice things. He's a great person, but at the end of the day, he's just, the Supreme Brahman is appearing in a material body. So that means nature is superior to God. So it's just another way of avoiding, it's another display of the living entity's enviousness. We come here out of enviousness of Krishna, wanting to be the supreme, be the controller. And when we realize we can't do that, okay, I can't defeat Krishna with my fists or with any type of a fight. I can't have more wealth than Krishna. I can't have more beauty than Krishna. I can't have more fame than Krishna or more opulence than Krishna. And I can't have more knowledge than Krishna. So what do I do with my words? I try to cut it down. I try to say the Supreme has no hands, no mouth, no feet, no legs. He's just some stone, some motionless, aformous, is that a word? Meaning no form, some unintelligible object in the sky, and that unintelligible object has now taken on a human body, just like I did. And he spoke some good knowledge, but at the end of the day, same. Me and him both know Bhagavad Gita. But this is actually not intelligent, we can see. Because we can understand that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, He is the controller of nature. If everything is emanating from Him, as we read in some of these texts, if everything that we're experiencing are different varieties of His energy, then how is it that He will become subdued by one of those energies? Just like if you think of anyone who's, okay, I guess I'm the owner of the phone. So I can control the phone and do things on it, but the phone doesn't control me. I mean, that's not a good example because it does control people. Many people today are addicted to their phone, but we can see if someone is the owner and the controller of something, that thing does not overtake that person. So this idea that Krishna becomes subordinate into nature is a very foolish idea. We can see that he has these different types of energy, and the material energy, he explains, it's his inferior energy. But he himself, he is, what was that last sentence we read? He comes as the same unborn, therefore in the 4th chapter, it is said that the Lord, by his internal potency, is not under the inferior energy, but is always in the superior energy. We can make it the 4th chapter. We were reading this nice verse about it yesterday. Okay, here's one. Ajopi san avyayatma bhutanam ishvaro san prakritim svamadishtaya sambhavam yatma maya. Although I am unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all sentient beings, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. So he's coming in his original form. This is the Srila Prabhupada explains the difference between Krishna and the minute living entities here in the purport. The Lord has spoken about the peculiarity of his birth. Although he may appear like an ordinary person, he remembers everything of his many past births, whereas a common man cannot remember what he has done even a few hours before. So these really foolish people, they try to say, oh, Krishna, he's just an ordinary person, like you and me. There might be something supreme in him, but he has a material body. But we see that's not true because Krishna, he can remember all of his past births. He tells Arjuna, previously I spoke this knowledge to the sun god. It was millions of years ago. And the sun god spoke it to the sun god spoke it to his son, who spoke it to Manu. So Arjuna, being a contemporary of Krishna, he says, how is that possible? Because we're around the same age. The sun god, you're talking about something that happened millions of years ago. How is that possible? It's possible because Krishna, he says, I can remember all these past births, but you cannot, O Arjuna. So this is the difference. People want to say, okay, this person, Krishna, he may have existed, but he was an ordinary man. But he can remember all of his past births. That means he's coming in his original form. Death means you forget. It means forgetfulness. You die and forget what happened in your past lifetime. So such people can't even remember what they did before, especially many of them are so much addicted to sinful activities they can't remember what they did a few hours before due to intoxication and so much sense gratification. The mind becomes unhinged, can't even remember things that happened a few hours before. But Krishna, he knows everything past, present, and future. That's his omnipotency is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Let's see. He would surely have, okay, this is speaking again about what an ordinary person would do. He would surely have to dredge his memory to recall what he was doing exactly at the same time one day before. And yet men often dare to claim to be God or Krishna. One should not be misled by such meaningless claims. Then again, the Lord explains his prakriti or his form. And we know his form is also ever youthful. When he was on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, someone who is not in proper knowledge might say, well, he was getting hit by arrows. That must be a human form. He's getting damaged. But actually, if we read the Srimad Bhagavatam, we can understand those arrows that he's getting hit by his devotee Bhishma Dev. They were just like it's explained in the purports, they were just like the biting of a lover. Because Krishna was accepting this nice, loving exchange with his devotee, who wanted to serve him in this chivalrous mood, so they had a good fight. And it's really firing up. So those arrows that are hitting him, it's just like the offerings of roses, or like that example, the biting of the lover. It's not that he himself is actually ever suffering. Everything he's doing is for his own enjoyment. So he's enjoying that loving exchange of some arrows and some, chivalrous talking and big battle. He's everything he does, he's the enjoyer. There's no time that he's suffering or in some sort of difficulty. It's part of his arrangement, his pastime. So these people, they want to say, like mind bodies, you can ask them, well, if you're God and everyone's God, then why are you suffering here? You're getting toothache, you're getting stomach ulcer, you're going to the doctor, all these things. You have to wear glasses for the eyes, all these different things. Your body is deteriorating. So why would you be suffering? And then they'll say, it is my past. But Krishna is not, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not so foolish that he would accept the pastime of suffering. Everything he does is for his enjoyment. And if these people say that it's just my pastime, we can say, okay, well then let me help you with that enjoyment. And we can hit them with shoes. Just to prove to them. The Lord says that, then again, one should not be misled by such meaningless claims. Many people make these meaningless claims that there's new incarnations popping up every day, especially in India. Here we get them in America, but they don't become famous. Like if you go to the music festivals, you'll meet a lot of guys that you're showing them the book. He's got like one friend with him who's like passed out. He's got like he doesn't have any sort of following or anyone really cares for him, but he'll take the book and then sing Bhagavad and I am God. It's like wow. Usually God has his associates and his friends and loving relationships, but this one has just one passed out friend and like his phone data just ran out. It's the pioneer phone limit. Or Krishna Shravana Prabhu is explaining to me that there was this one so-called God who came to Los Angeles and he was telling everybody, I'm God. But shortly after, he got in a car accident and was very injured. Shravana Prabhu said, God got hurt. So there's so many of these bogus incarnations. Some of them become very famous, especially in places like in India. There was one that came out of Hyderabad, and it's very ugly face. But we see Krishna; he's always beautiful. He's never youthful. But this man is very ugly, dark face, big afro, like funny-looking guy, really goofy looking. But so many people will have pictures of him on their home. They'll name their children after him. But it's foolishness. Because of not having proper knowledge, we can understand what an incarnation of God is from the scriptures. So the scriptures tell us all the different incarnations. What time period they'll appear in, where they'll appear, who their parents will be, what activities they'll do. And like that. So if these people are mentioned, like this guy, there's this Baba, that Baba, this guy in Hyderabad. I think his name is like Guy Baba or something like that. Really ugly guy. These type of people, if they're not mentioned anywhere in the scripture, how they'll appear and what they'll do, and we can understand this isn't God. And there's even more tests. You can see when God comes, he displays miraculous activities, extraordinary superhuman activities. So Krishna, he lifts Govardhan Hill on the left hand pinky finger, and he holds it for 7 days. What do these so-called incarnations do? You can see videos of people talking about them. They say, oh, sometimes he makes ashes come out of his hand. If making ashes is qualification for being God, then someone can bring a lighter and a piece of paper here, and I can claim that I'm God. But we understand making ashes is not a qualification for being God. But if Krishna had 16,108 wives and 16,108 palaces for each of them. These people aren't doing anything like that. They say, oh, he can make a little bit of gold, and he's giving us gold. Well, if making gold is qualification for being God, then why not surrender to the God who's making the whole gold mine? Why just a little few specks of gold? So these things are there. And when Krishna appears, he also has different characteristics on his body. He has many auspicious bodily features. Some of those are described. Many of them are very beautiful, but we see many of these so-called gods. Their bodies look very inauspicious. It's hard to look at them even. If you look at pictures of them, they're very ugly. So they're not Krishna, they're not the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He doesn't have, God doesn't have an afro. He's not getting, when he's on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, he's about 120 years old, and he looks like a teenager. But these gods, they're living for a few years, looking very old, getting toothache. And on his palms, he has auspicious bodily symptoms. He's got different symbols. There's a lightning bolt, chakra, lotus flower, and also on the soles of his feet, some of these same symbols are there. The elephant goad, it's like the stick for driving an elephant. So we can understand who God is through the scriptures. We shouldn't surrender to our own ignorance and just think any so-called person who claims to be God is God. Prakriti means nature as well as Swarup, or one's own form. The Lord says that he appears in his own body. He does not change his body. Yeah, where are these so-called gods now? They appear in a body that's not theirs. It's made of Krishna's energy. It's made of material nature. They're renting it for some time. And where are they now? Due to all their sinful activities, they might be a worm and stool. God doesn't appear as a worm and stool, but now these so-called babas and thises and thatses, where are they now? Lower planetary systems, somewhere in hell, as some animal. The Lord says that he appears in his own body. He does not change his body, as the common living entity changes from one body to another. The conditioned soul may have one kind of body in the present birth, but he has a different body in the next birth. In the material world, the living entity has no fixed body, but transmigrates from one body to another. The Lord, however, does not do so. Whenever he appears, he does so in the same original body, by his internal potency. In other words, Krishna appears in this material world in his original eternal form with two hands holding a flute. And we see some of these so-called gods, especially the newer ones, since there's social media and all these things, they want to take pictures posing with the flute, but they can't even play it. Not even just to like some normal, mundane standard of good flute playing. Of course, like, no one's going to match Krishna's flute playing, but they can't even just like practice it and play it a little bit. They get some prop flute, hold it in a picture and say, yes, I'm the avatar of Krishna. But are you predicted to come in the Srimad Bhagavatam or any of the Vedas? No. The person who's predicted in this Kali Yuga is Yagyai Sankirtana Prayer Yajanti Sumeda Sukha. The person who starts the Sankirtan movement. And intelligent persons take advantage of that topmost sacrifice of Sankirtan, and they engage in worshiping this person in that way. This person is Lord Chaitanya. He comes in this age and he establishes the Yuga Dharma of Sankirtan. And so those who are Sumeda Saha, intelligent, take advantage of that and engage in the congregational chanting of this holy name, distributing these books that are written kirtans to. There's two mridangas you can play. The small mridanga, which we have clay or acrylic, and then the brihat mridanga, which is these books. It's the bigger mridanga. They go near and far, all over the world. So by playing these two mridangas, one worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead who came in this age. And he appears, was it Trisha Krishna? Was that, he's not Krishna?
Yeah, Krishna Varnam Trisha Krishna.
Krishna Varnam Trisha Krishna. Sango Anga Shriparshana. Yagyanti Sankirtana prayer. He appears in this age, he's Krishna himself, but in this age he's not Krishna, black. He comes in a yellowish, golden form, Lord Chaitanya. And then after him, sometime towards the end of Kali Yuga, there's Kalki Avatar. And he comes and destroys all these rascals who will be left here speculating and saying all of these philosophies that I'm God. Actually, at the end of Kali Yuga, it's people. There probably won't be much of philosophy anyways. Everyone's eating flesh. Like they are now, but they're even eating human flesh at the end of Kali Yuga. It's really bad. There's no chance of building some finer brain substance to understand subtler things like spiritual life. So who knows? I don't know if there'll be anyone claiming to be God at that time. But he comes as called the Avatar and just destroys all the rascals and demons who are left at the end of Kali Yuga. Okay, a little more from this purport. Although he appears in the same transcendental body and is the Lord of the universe, it still appears that he takes birth like an ordinary living entity. Despite the fact Lord Krishna grows from childhood to boyhood, then from boyhood to youth, astonishingly enough, he never ages beyond youth. At the time of the battle of Kurukshetra, he had many grandchildren at home, or in other words, he had sufficiently aged by material calculations. Still, he looked just like a young man, 20 or 25 years old. We never see a picture of Krishna in old age, because he never grows old like us. Although he is the oldest person in the whole creation, past, present, and future, neither his body nor his intelligence ever deteriorates or changes. And then Srila Prabhupada gives the example of, it's like the sun. The sun is setting on one horizon. We know it's not that the sun died or disappeared, but it's moving it's moving beyond that horizon, and it's appearing somewhere else at the same time when it's disappearing from our vision. So that's like Krishna's appearance and disappearance. He's got the transcendental road show of coming to one universe, doing his pastimes to attract the living entities back home, back to Godhead, and then moving on to the next universe, like the sun. It's not that he's ever dying or taking birth again. Okay, so back to the chapter 10, text 3. He was existing before the creation, and he is different from his creation. All the demigods were created within this material world, but as far as Krishna is concerned, it is said that he is not created. Therefore, Krishna is different even from the great demigods like Brahma and Shiva. And because he is the creator of Brahma, Shiva, and all the other demigods, he is the supreme person of all planets. And we can hear from these demigods in all the different Vedas, like in the Srimad Bhagavatam or in all the Vedas, you can hear their prayers to the supreme person and they glorify him. You are the supreme. I like those people who surrender to you. Those who don't surrender to you, I don't want to associate with. They make it very clear. So if someone really wants to please a great personality like Lord Shiva, what do? They must surrender to Krishna. And then Lord Shiva is happy to have their association. There's no better way to worship these personalities, if people want to do that, than to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who they themselves are worshiping Krishna. But because people are lusty, they worship the demigods instead. Krishna says that. It says very plainly. But those who are less intelligent, they worship the demigods due to their being lusty. They want to enjoy their senses in some way, so they worship the demigods. It's just like bribing someone who's working under the president. You could go to the president, but he might not give you exactly what you're wanting if you have some illicit desire. So you go to the different governors, mayors, people like this, and you bribe them that, okay, here, take this much money and please give me this thing. So like that, people are kind of burning off all of their karma, worshiping the demigods, saying, here, I'll do this sacrifice and this sacrifice, and you please give me this and that. But still, they can actually award them more than what's already in their karma. They just give them a big dose of it once here. Takes them well. There's no devotion actually we see in these people who are worshiping the demigods. It's just a material affair. I'll give you this and you give me that. It's a business transaction. But real worship and surrender is the point of the human form of life. The point is, as Krishna says at the end of Bhagavad Gita, Sarvadharman prityaja mamekam sharanam vraja aham tam sarvapabdevyo mokshayishami masucha. To abandon all other varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. So that's real devotion. That's a real relationship. One might think, okay, if I give everything to such a person, then I have some reason to fear, because how will I protect myself? What will happen to me? But you don't have to worry with Krishna, the Supreme Person. If you give everything to him, at the end of that verse, he says, I'll protect you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. So the devotee wants to serve Krishna without any type of motive and without any stop. But we see those who worship some other personality, they want to do it just as long as they get something in return. Someone treats their boss very nicely as long as he pays them. Someone worships the demigods as long as they provide what they like. And there's no love, there's no devotion. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada, he has 3 letters where he says, if you want to worship Ganesh, you shouldn't. But if you want to do that, then I will allow it only under this condition. You can worship Ganesh if you do it in such a way that you make a lot of money and you send me at least $100,000 a month. No less. He has three letters where he says it exactly like that. And this just outlines exactly what the relationship is of those who worship the demigods. It's just a business affair. They're doing it just like any job. I'll do this job as long as I get some money. So if someone really wants to please the demigods, it's not that they use them like a vending machine or their bodyguard or their order supplier. They should actually surrender unto Krishna. And by worshiping him with love and devotion, all living entities are pleased, just like by watering the root of a tree. Naturally, all the branches, whether big or small, all the leaves, big or small, they'll all get nourished if you just put the water on the root, which is Krishna. He's Aham Bija Pradapika. He's the seed-giving father of all existences, all material worlds, spiritual worlds, all living entities, big and small. He's the person who's creating them all. So if we actually worship him and surrender to him with love and devotion, all others are satisfied and nourished. He was existing before the creation. Sri Krishna is therefore different from everything that is created. And anyone who knows him as such immediately becomes liberated from all sinful reaction. One must be liberated from all sinful activities to be in the knowledge of the Supreme Lord. Only by devotional service can he be known, and not by any other means, as stated in Bhagavad Gita. One should not try to understand Krishna as a human being. As stated previously, only a foolish person thinks him to be a human being. This is again expressed here in a different way. A man who is not foolish is intelligent enough to understand the constitutional position of the Godhead. A man who is not foolish, who is intelligent enough to understand the constitutional position of the Godhead, is always free from all sinful reactions. So Krishna calls them fools, Srila Prabhupada calls them fools. It's very clear, those who think that Krishna is an ordinary person are fools. So we can just tell them like that, I'm sorry, sir, but you're a fool. That's how Krishna names you. It's not my words, it's Krishna's words. He says, Mudha. So we can tell them you're foolish, and in this way they can at least come to the position of knowing where they're at. If we know where we're at, then we can make advancement. If I'm thinking I'm some sort of Paramahamsa Thakur, because one day when I was a child, my grandmother once told me one shloka from Bhagavad Gita, and then I never picked up the book again. This type of mentality, we won't be able to learn anything. Just like if someone wants to learn piano lessons. If he's already learned some, the teacher actually charges him more than if he's a complete novice. He's already learned something. He charges him more because he has to unteach him all the other,
things that he learned so that he can begin to play the piano in the bona fide way. Whereas if somebody's brand new, they say, okay, you just pay this much, I'll teach you. Just do like this, start like this, and work up from there. So if we know our position, then it's easier to actually take knowledge. So we can let them know in a position that, okay, you're thinking Krishna is a mundane person. Krishna says also that I reward them accordingly. As they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. So if we think Krishna is just a mundane fool, then the way that he will reciprocate with us is we'll be a mundane fool. If we think Krishna is nonsense, we'll be nonsense. If we think Krishna is Maya, we'll be in Maya. Like this. If we're envious of Krishna, then he says, okay, here, we can be in a situation where we're envious of everyone. We're envious of Krishna, we come to the material world, and then what happens? Now you're envious of everyone. So that's our position here in the material world. And the last snare of Maya, the last big shock of this enviousness is this Maya thinking, me and the Supreme are one. I am God. So, but such people are foolish. But one who's not foolish, he can understand the constitutional position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and in this way he gets free from all sinful reactions. He gets disentangled from material nature. Why? Because he's surrendering to the person who is in control of material nature. Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha ahankara vibhurama karta hamveti manyate. People are thinking I'm the doer of my activities, but all their activities are being carried out by nature. And this material nature is very hard to overcome. This material nature, which is controlling everyone, is very hard to overcome. But one who surrenders unto me can easily cross beyond it. So these people are stuck. They're stuck in being mudhas. They're stuck being foolish. But by surrendering to Krishna, they can easily cross over this ocean of nations, of foolishness. And so those who are intelligent, Sumedasa, how do they worship Krishna? How do they surrender unto him? They engage in this most ecstatic process of Sankirtan. So that means we go to every person without any discrimination, all over the world, in any condition, whether they're poor, rich, whatever it is, there's no bar. And we say, my dear Buddha, you are very intelligent. You're an amazing person. You're the best of the best. Please accept this book, Bhagavad Gita. Please forget what is that? There's a nice verse that actually explains it better than me just, ad-libbing. Chaitanya Chandra Charan. Well, there's a verse that I don't remember the Sanskrit, but with a straw in my teeth, I was saying, "Oh sadhu, hey sadhu, oh learned person, you're very smart, you're very great, you're so intelligent, you're the best person. I just beg one thing from you," and then they say, "Oh, you're praising me so much. Okay, what do you want? I just beg one thing. Yes, go ahead. Please forget all the nonsense you have learned and just surrender unto the lotus feet of Lord." So we do that by saying, "Hey man, you're so awesome. Can you please take these books?" People are very happy to take them, especially here in this part of the world and in this part of the country. It's a special situation. So it's not too difficult. We go say some nice things. "Hey Samu, hey amazing learning person, please take these books. Forget all the other nonsense. Just take these and your life will be perfect. You can attain the goal of life. No more suffering." And so like this, Krishna is very pleased when he sees his devotees have such a compassionate activity, or such a compassionate proclivity to try to give this transcendental knowledge to everyone that they meet. And that's the order of Lord Chaitanya. It's not, well, am I qualified to preach Krishna consciousness, or am I qualified to distribute these books, or it's not whether you're qualified or not, but it's actually your order. It's your duty. You've heard it, you've gotten the point, so now it's your duty to give it to everyone you know. Lord Chaitanya says that whomever you meet, speak to him, tell him to surrender to Krishna. Speak to him the knowledge of Krishna consciousness. Get him to chant Hare Krishna. Give him the books of Srila Prabhupada. Engage him in devotional service. So like this, Lord Chaitanya and all of his associates and disciples, and everyone who is, well, everyone who is related to Lord Chaitanya, his associates, and did he take the disciple section? Were the six Goswamis disciples? Okay. So everyone related to Lord Chaitanya, they're being sent out all over the world with one mission, that you teach people how to surrender, you teach people to surrender to Krishna. You give them pure love of God, which is this Krishna consciousness movement. And so we see in the lives of all these great devotees, it was Madhavendra Puri's disappearance day a few days ago. Who's greater than Madhavendra Puri? He's bringing the love of Radha and Krishna to this material world. He's okay, we're talking about watering the root, and that's very important. You should water the root, and then everything else is satisfied. So we water the root of this Chaitanya tree you'll see in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. We're watering the root of this Chaitanya tree, which has many branches, all of its devotees, and all of this Krishna consciousness movement that's spreading throughout the world. But one thing that's very important, beyond just watering the root in the tree, people say, don't forget your roots. It's a saying. But not only should you not forget your roots, but don't forget the seed. So Madhavendra Puri, he came to this material world and gave the seed of love of Godhead, of loving devotional service to Radha and Krishna. And that seed fructified in the form of his disciple, Ishvara Puri, who is such a pleasing and great disciple that he was blessed by his spiritual master to become the spiritual master of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we spoke a little bit about Ramachandra Puri this morning at breakfast. How Ramachandra Puri was offensive to his spiritual master. The active principle in the life of the disciple is the instructions of the spiritual master. It's not the other way around. But Ramachandra Puri, he was so foolish that he saw his spiritual master as an ordinary man and tried to instruct him. When Madhavendra Puri was enacting the pastimes of leaving this world, out of his Vaishnava humility, he was saying, I have not served Krishna. He was lamenting like this. Ramachandra Puri began to instruct him, why are you lamenting? You're a sannyasi. Why don't you just meditate on Brahman? And we spoke about it this morning, so I won't say it all again. But Madhavendra Puri just kicked him out of there. And ever since then, Ramachandra Puri was very offensive to devotees, and we see it's just, it's all downhill from there. He was so offensive, he was even fault-finding and criticizing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Chaitanya. On the opposite spectrum, we see Ishvara Puri, as his spiritual master was enacting the pastimes of being bedridden and leaving this world. Ishvara Puri was such a great disciple. He was caring for his spiritual master. He was personally taking care of his body in all ways, cleaning up the stool and all these things, taking full care of him as he's enacting the pastime of being bedridden and leaving the world. So, because of his great loving devotion to his spiritual master and his sincere service, Madhavendra Puri was so pleased with him that he gave him his full blessings. And we see what is the result. By being fully surrendered to his spiritual master, through loving devotional service, there's no loss. It's actually the greatest gain. He became the spiritual master of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Chaitanya. So how qualified are these persons? It's inconceivable, unfathomable. It's amazing the devotion of these personalities. And just one last thing, Madhavendra Puri, he personally was instructed by Lord Gopal. Remember, we read in the Garga Samhita the other day how Krishna was saying, that he would appear somewhere in Kali Yuga, in like a cave somewhere. That was talking about the Gopal deity. So that Gopal deity, he was on top of Govardhan Hill. Muslims came and attacked. The person taking care of him hid him in a bush. So Madhavendra Puri is such an exalted devotee. One night he had a dream. Gopal, actually one boy came to him and gave him a pot of milk. He was thinking, he's a fully transcendental personality, so much so he never actually begged for any food. If someone just randomly gave him food, he would accept it and eat it, and if not, he would fast, no problem. Doesn't care for the body and material necessities. And it's not like now, someone sees a sannyasi and they give them everything, but, well, I guess that doesn't really happen now in America. I was just hearing, at that time, it was like, it wasn't like he was receiving food every day, it was a rare thing. So, Madhavendra Puri, he's not attracted to this material world or anything, but this boy comes up and gives him this pot of milk, and he's thinking, wow, this is amazing. Why is that boy so attractive? So beautiful features. I'm thinking about him so much. How is that? And later, when he had a dream, Gopal came to him and he was explaining that I'm Gopal, Supreme Personality of Godhead, and I'm in this bush over here. I need you to help me because I'm cold. I'm not being fed or cared for. Please get me out of the bush. So he realized the boy who came to him was Krishna, and he was lamenting, Krishna came to me. Then he realized that was him. So he gets Gopal out of the bush and installs him nicely, and the whole village gathers, and they do all this whole ceremony with all sorts of foods being offered, and bathing the deity, the Mahasnan, which is they bathe him with water and ghee. And so they're doing all this nice things. But Gopal tells him, I'm very hot, I need sandalwood to cool down my body, and please get it at this place. So Madhavendra Puri, he goes very far, thousands of miles actually, to get this sandalwood. And I'm wrapping up the story. There's just there's amazing details in it. On the way there, that's where Shirachura Gopinath pastime happens, where he goes to the temple of Gopinath, and he sees for Shirachura Gopinath, they make the most nectarian sweet rice. And he sees this sweet rice before it's offered to the deity, and he thinks, wow, I would love to taste that so I could make the same exact thing and offer it to Gopal for his enjoyment. But it wasn't yet offered to the deity, so later when he left the temple, he was feeling very ashamed that I committed an offense because I wanted to taste the offering to the Lord before it was offered to him, before he enjoyed it. I made an offense. He's feeling very low about himself. But when the Pujari went to sleep later that night, that deity Gopinath appeared to him in a dream and said, I stole a pot of sweet rice for my devotee Madhavendra Puri. Please go give it to him, the sannyasi Madhavendra Puri. He's somewhere in the marketplace. And the Pujari immediately gets up out of his sleep and he washes up because he doesn't want to make an offense of being unclean when he goes to take care of the deity. And he goes into the altar and he gets the sweet rice. And then he washes the area where the sweet rice was. And then he goes out into the market and it's like late. And he's saying, will the sannyasi Madhavendra Puri please come out? Will the sannyasi Madhavendra Puri please come here? Gopinath has stolen a pot of sweet rice for you. You're the most fortunate person in the world. So eventually he finds him, and Madhavendra Puri takes the sweet rice, and he's overwhelmed in the ecstasy of love of God. And he immediately leaves that place very soon because he doesn't want to be praised and like gather following, be seen like that by others. So he leaves and he goes and he gets this sandalwood, and it's 82 pounds of sandalwood. We have these cement bags, they're 80 pounds. It's heavy. I don't carry one on my own. We do a team lift because it seems dangerous. So it's very heavy. But, and they gave him, to help him, one brahmana and one servant. And he carried this 82 pounds of sandalwood thousands of miles back to Gopal. And during that journey, going thousands of miles, even though there were encumbrances, there were difficulties, and it is difficult, but he was just feeling bliss. He was so happy to be engaged in the service of the Lord. And that was his reward, was the service. So, and then Gopal told him, I'm none different than Gopinath, with the Sandalwood Gopinath and all the cool. So this is Madhavendra Puri, such an exalted devotee. And Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.